There we go.
There we go.
All right. So I want to, give me a second. I want to just rearrange my windows so I can get the chat up too. That way, if you guys do have anything. Well, I see Stephanie is here for the first time. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
And I hope I didn't misinterpret, but this is both research opportunities and internship. Is that right now? Okay. All right.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Because I'm going to talk about it anyways. Yeah, so I'm glad to see everyone here, as I just recently had some communication with the officers for exercise medicine on campus. They've been doing such a wonderful job with this year. This has been going on for several years, but this year has been like no other. And so whenever you get a chance to talk to the officers, give them a thanks. You know, this is something that they do extra for not only the experience, but because they realize it's helpful for individuals like all of you here today. So just, you know, give them some appreciation for doing that, because I even told them they're really setting the stage for a lot of great things to continue on in the future with the student organization. And I hope many of you guys consider filling in the void that will be created when they move on to bigger and better things, as they unfortunately leave us at the university. So definitely reach out, and hopefully you can carry the baton and continue doing the great things that they've started to do. So I do have a little bit of an agenda, not much, but I'm going to start out with what I believe. Let me get my little pointer up here. What I believe is the most key aspect for both research and internship opportunities. And you're going to think it's a bit obvious, but sometimes it's beneficial for us to hear the obvious, because it's just a reminder of what we need to do to accomplish our goals. So I'm going to start out with that. And then I'll touch on some research programs that we have on campus. I actually just reached out today to get some more information about one of them with some unfortunate results that I'll get to here in a second. But that will give you some ideas of what there is on campus. I have some tips for what you can do to prepare for getting involved in research. And then we'll end with some internship opportunities that you might be able to find on campus. And then, of course, some questions and answers at the end. There's going to be plenty of time for that. And I feel like that's sometimes the most beneficial part. So let's do the obvious. Here you have a student that has the idea, I want to do some research. And they either heard in class that they should do it, or they hear about some of our grad students that are doing research, and they're like, I want to do some of that too. Here's the best way to find out how to do research. You talk to someone that's been doing research. They know someone else that's doing research. They know someone else that has been working with the faculty in a lab. Boom, they have a research opportunity there. Maybe you can get involved in that particular lab. I kid you not, networking and getting yourself out there is the best opportunity to get involved in research. Every student that I've had in my lab, and you know, I'll speak maybe a little bit more from the undergraduate level, that never happens unless they actually reach out to me first and start the conversation about doing research in the lab. And I don't always accept everyone, because it's not feasible to do that, but most often it's because there's just not enough opportunities available, and not enough hours in the day to give opportunities to every student that would like it. So you also have to be timing the opportunity right. And that's an unknown factor. And I can't tell you when that time is going to be in the future. So it's something you can never know. So you just have to get yourself out there consistently. So when that time does arrive, you're that person that they're looking for to bring you into their lab and do some research. It really is a bit of luck involved with it, but that luck isn't going to do anything if no one knows that you're actually interested in research and that you have the qualifications to actually do something good in that research lab. So that's my obvious, this is the obvious, right? You need to get, I'm going to give you some tips about how to do that too later. But that's simply one thing that you just absolutely must do if you want to take advantage of some research opportunity. I guarantee you, you're not going to get an email someday from a faculty member on campus just randomly that says, hey, so-and-so, come on into the lab. I got a research project for you. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So do your due diligence and just get yourself out there and let people know that you're interested in doing some research. It could be a scam email, yeah. Especially if they're asking for money ahead of time before you get involved in the research. So long story short on this slide, have those conversations. You guys are doing one good thing here that I'm going to recommend later, and that is just making yourself known to faculty members and different research labs on campus by being here in this particular meeting. And that's part of having the conversation about research. So kudos for at least taking that first step. That's really great. The slide might look similar because it is, but now this person has the idea. I want an internship. It's true. The same simple thing is probably your best strategy for finding an internship. Talk to people, find out where the internship opportunities are. Even networking with professionals, you might get out there and ask someone, I really like your company. I feel like you have positions there that would help give me an idea of what I would like to do for my career. Do you have anything available? And they might say no, but then they also might say, but I know of a friend of mine who works at another company that might give you an opportunity. And if you don't actually reach out and have that communication, that will never happen. So again, even with an internship opportunity, getting yourself out there, having discussions and networking is the best thing that you can do. And you have to really be prepared for rejection with this process. And it's not always outright rejection, like we don't have anything available for you, or we don't feel you're qualified at this time, or that kind of rejection. It's more or less rejection, like you hear nothing back. And as bad as that is, I suppose it would be great if you get responses back from everyone that you interact with. I think that's the right way to do things. That's just reality, and you just can't take it personally. It's kind of a similar process when you're looking for jobs too. And I had this when I was looking for faculty positions. I tell this story to some students. The first year I started looking for faculty positions after my postdoc, I don't even believe I got a single phone interview. And then the year after I tried, just 1 year after, I wasn't like, a super rock star after 1 year extra at that point in my career. I had, I think, 5 or 6 offers to get hired at these different universities. And I got to pick which one I wanted to go to. I came to Long Beach here. But again, it was like, I didn't really change that much from 1 year to the next. But it just so happened there were much better opportunities available during the second year that I tried. It was nothing that I did. It's just that those opportunities were there. And I feel like that's a really good example to help you guys with both research and internship. So let's talk about a few that you at least might want to pursue in the meantime at CSULB. So here's some research opportunities. I know a little bit about this one because I don't work with students through this particular program, but I do sometimes see students later who have worked with me through the BUILD program, which I'll talk about here in a second, who had experience through OnDelay. And OnDelay is really geared toward nutrition, health sciences, and kinesiology students. And by the way, this little link at the top, and I was hoping I would be able to select text in my notes for PowerPoint, but unfortunately I can't. But if you want, I could maybe try to do that after I end my PowerPoint presentation, or send it to the officers to share some of these too. But to be perfectly honest, you could search really easily on Google, CSULB research, and you're going to get to this page. It's how I found the page, to be honest. So there's definitely more information on the specifics there. I'm just making you aware that there are many opportunities out there. The reason that I don't go too far in depth is because they're actually really specific on who can apply to them. And so it's just more time efficient for you to look into those as you feel the need. But a lot of students in our program, kinesiology, I don't feel know about this OnDelay. And it's actually geared towards kinesiology students. They have really good developmental training that occurs in that program. I heard the learning communities are really beneficial. And some of the students that I've had in my lab afterwards, they were very well prepared to do research in my lab. So if you're looking to get a boost in your exposure to research for future, more advanced research programs, I think OnDelay is a really good program for you to look into. The biggest one that I've had exposure to, some of them are paid. BUILD for sure is paid. OnDelay, I'm not going to say. I'm really on the line. I kind of don't think it is, but it might well be. So my opinion here doesn't make any sense. Thanks for putting that up there. But yeah, I thought there was some compensation somehow, but yeah, I don't think it's like actually like a monthly paycheck or anything like that. Whereas Build is. Build is a very intensive research program geared towards those students looking to pursue a PhD, so further graduate school, but a research-oriented career, and that requires a PhD. It's why I went from my master's to PhD. My advisor said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a faculty member. He said, what kind of college do you want to be a faculty member? And at that point, I wanted to be at a Research One institute, so a very research intensive institute. And he said, well, PhD is what you got to do. And so that's what I did at that point. And that's sort of what the Build program is trying to do, but getting you to realize that's what you want to do at a much earlier point in your career. So, I realized that at the end of my master's degree, if you can realize that much earlier, like now when you're a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, you can get to that end point of where you want to be much faster. And that's not to say that you have to get there quickly, but if you know what your goal is and you can get there faster, then I say you might as well do it that way. It does have to be biomedical related, and Build uses that, I think, very loosely. And I think that's great. They've actually really pushed for more kinesiology students for the past, I've been in the Build program for like, I don't know, 5 years now. And we still don't have that many students apply. It's amazing. I think they are ready to just fund students in kinesiology for this Build program. And last year, we just didn't get too many applicants. So I'm hoping that changes this year. The deadline's March 7th, as you can see up here. With that being said, I am the lead this year for reviewing Build applications through CHHS, which is our college, and I've done it for 4 years now. It's a rigorous process, and I'll just give you some tips right now when you're applying. If you do want to apply, you still have time to apply. It's a pretty rigorous application, but you still have time to apply. I think the two biggest reasons why students get denied entry into the program are, the first one is not even really knowing what a PhD is. You will be asked that question in an interview. What is a PhD? Why do you want to pursue a PhD? And if you're really stumbling on what that even means, the discussion will be, this person doesn't even know what a PhD is. They're not feasible for this program. That's probably one of the main ones. The other one is just not knowing what you want to do. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Is not knowing what research is, and furthermore, not having at least a basic idea of what you'd like to do for research. Now, especially given the pandemic, I think they're going to be a little bit more loose on having research experience for the program, because our PECS lab is closed. We can't even do research in there as faculty, let alone students doing the research that they want to do. So I believe they're trying to figure out, what to do on that aspect. But I think what they're going to do is just going to not hold students so strict to the standard of having research experience. But what will work in your favor is knowing about what research is, getting out there and reading some research, thinking about something you might want to work on during your time in Build, or at the very least, knowing what faculty members you'd like to work with, and what kind of things you want to accomplish in the Build program. I mean, that goes a long way, not only for getting through the process of getting into the program, but also with the pairing of yourself to a faculty mentor, which is what we try to do as well during the interview process. So there's lots that you can do to prepare for that. And again, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too, what you can do. So PhD, PhD in physiology, sure, absolutely. Good question by Jacqueline. So the applicant has to eventually earn a PhD? No, but I will say that so I'm not an administrator for the Build program, but I will say that for the administrators in the Build program that report back to the NIH, this is a huge National Institute of Health grant, multi-million dollar grant to support the initiative to get students, especially from that are underrepresented, into PhD and doctoral programs, so that we have more faculty representation from the diverse people that we have in this country. So, the outcome is really, really important. So they do place a high priority on students really at least having the intent to pursue a PhD. Now, if there's no way they can require to do that, I think, you know, from a, how do I say it? From an honorable perspective, I think you should enter into the program with that as your goal, not just to get research experience to help your grad school application to something like physical therapy, which we do get a lot of students that just are hell-bent on physical therapy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But build programs not for you. You should get your research somewhere else. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to earn a PhD, but they will expect you to take steps towards applying to the PhD. And I do think they expect you, and they work very hard to make sure you're applying to PhD programs. Even if at the end of the day, you don't accept any of them, they still have that expectation that you're going to do that. And I actually think they like work hand in hand with you on filling out the applications and gathering all the content that you need to submit for those. So yeah, they're pretty serious about it. That's a great question though. Hey, buddy. Just looking at all your wonderful faces. One I don't know too much about, but I did see it on that website that you can check out too, is Hispanic Serving Institutions, which Cal State Long Beach is, a STEM program. And basically it's looking to get first generation educated Latino students to pursue degrees and careers in STEM. So I think that's a program that falls in line with what a lot of these are. But I think what this is, they're just different funded opportunities that have kind of these aligned goals for students at our institution. And they're all great. It's just, again, another opportunity that I feel like you should take advantage of if you can do so. Sad news on this one. The MARC program is called Maximizing Access to Research Careers. And I knew about this program because I worked with a faculty member in biology, and we co-mentored a MARC student, his biology student, but they wanted to do metabolic work in our physiology of exercise and sport lab. And so all of that student's work was in our lab. And I just looked at the MARC page again, and they specifically list majors like, I don't remember all of them, but chemistry, biology, psychology was in there, even in there too. So I emailed today the contact for that, and I said, how strict are you guys on with those majors that you list there? And she said, very strict. And I sent a very disappointed, sad email stating that I think that's really discouraging for many of our students that are in biomedically related topics, which exercise physiology is, exercise science is. It's really discouraging to be limited from those opportunities simply because your major isn't painted as one of those specific majors that they get. We'll see if she responds back. But I'm fighting for you guys, basically what I'm saying. So I'm not going to go over that one, but if you do change majors and you go into one that is one that they list, and we do have students that change majors, then I think it is a good program. And I just wish we could have more availability for our students to do that. And then the last one I want to present here, I've utilized this program several times in the past, Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, or UROP. It is for students early in their career, so first and second year students only. So if you're a junior or senior, they won't be able to let you into that program. But basically they pair you with a mentor. The mentor gets a little bit of funds to support the lab or any work that you might be doing in there. So that's really cool for your mentor as well. And I think that's a really good introduction to research. So definitely take advantage of that program too. Now, I can't see everyone on the call here, but do we have Alejandro with us?
Not tonight.
What? Oh, I was totally going to call on him because he is the perfect example of what the build program can do for someone. So some of the people in here already know Alejandro is my build student. He's been with me for 2 years now. He's been, even if he wasn't with me, he'd still be successful. So it's nothing to do with me. But he just has the right mindset. He's done all that networking and stuff that I showed on the previous page. He's just taken advantage of every opportunity available to him. And he recently got accepted into University of Toronto's, I forget what they call it, but it's a straight to PhD program. So it doesn't even have to do a master's. He's going directly into a PhD program with a faculty mentor by the name of Dr. Moore, who is just a heavy hitter in some of the stuff we do in muscle physiology. He labels himself a muscle physiologist, does some really cool stuff. I told Alejandro, I said, I'm jealous. I want to go to his lab and learn some of the stuff that he's doing there. And for the 2 years that Alejandro was with me, he got to at least get exposed to research projects. He was part of a team of students I had a couple of years ago, and they actually conducted a year-long research project. The first cohort, the first semester we did it, I kind of worked with them a lot, and then the second semester they honestly did it all themselves. So they got exposed to really leading and running a research program, a research study, and he learned a lot, and he really took advantage of that, and clearly it shows with his ability to get straight into a PhD program. I've been so proud of him for that. And I feel like the Build program really does a good job. If that truly is what you want to do, you learn about what research is, and that's something that you want to pursue, or an academic program, then you really can't go wrong with Build. It's not everywhere, by the way. There's only less than like 10 institutions, I think, across the whole United States that have this program for students. So we're extremely fortunate to have that here. So I was going to call on Alejandro to talk a little bit more about that, but if you have specific questions, I can definitely answer those at the end. So, all right, so a couple other things here. What can you do to prepare for doing research? Because I know some of you, maybe a majority of you, don't have any exposure to research, and maybe you're even a little fuzzy about what research is. First thing that you can do to prepare for doing research is do your research. So you got to go out there and you got to learn about research. How do you do that? There's multiple different ways of doing that. One of my bullet points later will be reading about research, and how research is presented in something like a journal manuscript gives you a really good insight to what research is. It doesn't give you an appreciation for the research process. And I think that's a downfall for a lot of people that look at research and they critique research where they're not actually in the field of doing research. As graduate students will tell you, even what might appear to be a simple research project is enormously difficult to conduct properly. So then you start looking at research that's really complex. And once you've done a research project, you will have a full appreciation for the research that you're reading and all the limitations that go along with every single piece of research that you read. No research is perfect. That's why we have to conduct multiple research projects to get knowledgeable about any certain topic area. So the first thing to do to get involved in research is you need to do your research. Part of this is learning about professors on campus and what kind of research they're doing. Obviously, if you want to work in a lab with a faculty member here on campus, you need to be doing something that they do or that they have expertise in. The reason that we usually stay pretty focused on a certain topic area when we're faculty members is because that's what we know how to do. If we were doing things we didn't know how to do, we probably wouldn't be conducting very good research or high quality research. But sometimes to get a little bit out of our field, we just pull in collaborators that help us do that. But really, we have to have some expertise involved with that. So if you need to plan out what kind of research you want to do with any given faculty on campus, you need to know what kind of research that they're doing. At the bottom of the screen is a link here too. And what you can do is, I think you can type in Google like Build Research Mentor, so just the last several words here, and you'll get a nice little database there where you can see all of the Build mentors. Now that's not everyone on campus for sure. I don't even know what percentage is on there, but it's a really nice profile that you see for the faculty members. It shows their name. They can write a little blurb about themselves. Sometimes there's some personality in there with some of the faculty members, so you can kind of get to know what they might be like. I have a video on there too that Build did for me. So it gives you a chance to learn about the professors, because if you're going to reach out to them, the more you know about what they do and the more prepared you are, the more likely they're going to consider you to do work in their lab. So keep that in mind. Do not do this. Do not shotgun email a ton of professors asking about doing research. In other words, don't just get a list of 20 faculty members on campus and say, hey, are you doing research? I want to do research. Hey, are you doing research? I want to do research. We can kind of tell when you're using a generic type email like that. So make sure you don't do that. Now, I did say get out there and network and do all that, but it's selective networking. There has to be some intent behind the communication that you are doing with that strategy that I gave you at the very beginning. What you should do is read literature in the professor's area of interest. The first thing is you find a faculty member, you're like, wow, it's really interesting what they do. go to PubMed or Google Scholar and find out some of the research that they've actually published. Get familiar with the research projects that mean a lot to that particular faculty member, because that's going to help you talk about what they do in the lab. And it's impressive. If I have 3 students and one student contacts me with specifics about what I've done and ideas for future projects, that is super impressive. I'm really, really interested to talk to that student more to see how I can get them involved in my lab. But if you just have a generic email with, hey, I really like what you do, or do you have any available opportunities? I will respond, obviously, but I'm a little less impressed, if I'm to be perfectly honest. It doesn't show me that the student has the initiative and motivation to really take this seriously. So make sure you're coming off with, with that intent with your communication with that particular professor. Show that you're prepared and ready. Learn more about research. So read literature. This is a big one. I think my next point is similar to this, but read literature. What I mean by that is read research. So again, the 2 places I like are PubMed and Google Scholar. I think cover pretty much all my needs. Type in some keywords of things that you're interested in. If that becomes a very cumbersome process, research isn't for you. So you can at least learn that that's probably not what's good for you, and maybe move on to some other things to give that a shot as well. Research doesn't have to be for everyone. It's definitely cumbersome. It's definitely difficult. And you do have to have a bit of a passion for it to get through those really difficult moments. And you really never know until you try. But if reading literature is really difficult for you, and you don't get psyched up and excited about finding all these different research articles in a topic area that you're interested in, then you should start kind of thinking twice about whether or not PhD and going down the research route is your thing. Go to workshops. Sometimes labs offer opportunities where maybe they're bringing in a vendor with equipment that they have in their lab. We've done this in the past where we had like a vendor with our microplate reader, teach about how to use their microplate reader. We've had Applied Biosystems come in, teach us about real-time PCR, which helps us understand gene expression. And we would let students know when that happens and take involvement on that. For one, you get to learn about the technique, which might get you interested in actually learning that technique for your research experience. But 2, you're being noticed again. Professors are going to see you there. They're going to see you take an initiative and having the motivation to use your own time to learn these different pieces of information that's going on there. That looks very favorable to the faculty and labs. Attend lab meetings. We have PEX lab meetings, for instance, every other Friday. One coming up here tomorrow. Oh, geez, that's tomorrow. Yeah. And we have a thesis proposal tomorrow. So that'll be good exposure to you as well. But again, we see you in those lab meetings. And there's really something to say for that. I will, whether or not it's justified or whether or not I'm getting the best person for the job, I'm probably more likely to consider someone I see regularly if I have a project for them than someone I know absolutely nothing about. And hopefully that does make sense, right? If you know someone has that initiative to just be involved, that's at least a very good start. So do keep that in mind, and talk to professors. You have grad students here as well running, some grad students running the EIMOC meetings here. Just talk to them, find out what they're doing. What has their experience been in research? Talk to other students that you might know in research, like Alejandro is going to be a good one in here. Reach out to him, see what his experience has been. He probably even knows projects I don't even know going on. You just never know who's going to give you that opportunity that's going to be the one that you get involved with. I think this is my last one here. Read. Seriously, a large part of research is reading. Learn. You got to learn to like it. I'm actually sad I don't get to read as much as I would like to. I get Google Scholar alerts in certain topic areas, and I basically get to read the title and maybe the abstract. And these days, that's about all I get to read. But back when I was earlier in my career and a grad student, I spent a large bit of my free time, even sometimes at the gym. I'd print out some articles, and as I was resting, I'd read through the articles. What else am I going to do? That was exciting to me. I loved just learning this new knowledge that I didn't know before. And sometimes I was reading stuff that my professors weren't even aware of. And that was exciting to me too, because I wanted to tell them about it and I wanted to educate them too. We actually learn a lot from you guys. So that will give you a lot of exposure to research. And all of this, if you do all of this here, It's really setting you up for when that opportunity arises where there is some availability for you to get involved in research. And I say that knowing quite well that those opportunities are rare, few and far between. You will, however, be very ready to take advantage of those opportunities compared to the student that is just completely unaware of all these things that they could be doing in the meantime. Okay. Is that my last one? No. Okay. This was an idea that just actually kind of popped in my head. I think it was yesterday when I was kind of putting this together, is this would be super, super impressive. I'm speaking from a professor standpoint here. If you were to like contact me and you say, Dr. Cotter, I'm really interested in what you do. I have a couple ideas. And in fact, I found a opportunity on campus to get some money to fund this project I want to do. And you go on and tell me about this project you want to do, and you tell me about this opportunity that maybe gets you, you know, 500 or $1,000 or something like that. That would blow me away. And there are actually some, depends on the year and all of that, but there are different sources on campus that do provide some funding to students. Sometimes it's within our department. It's kind of sporadic, to be honest, but sometimes, and usually it's very last minute, we get a, hey, we have an opportunity to give some money to students, get the word out. And usually they're like, the deadline's in 2 days. So if you're doing everything else that I mentioned up here, you might be ready for such an opportunity because you've already got those ideas. And now you might have a way to bring some money with you. Now you're going to a professor saying, I have this great idea. By the way, I have some money to fund it as well. Boy, it's hard to say no to that. So how likely is that? I'm not sure, but it's definitely something to keep your eyes open for because I think it would do you well. I'm going to do a little bit on internships. I have much less on internships. So we're almost done where you can ask some questions then too, but how to find internships. I think this one's a little bit more difficult, but you'll see some of the same techniques here. The easiest way that you guys have access to, if you're an exercise science student, is take the exercise science internship class. No work involved. Well, most of the time. Pandemic, I've had to ask some students to do a little bit of work because a lot of our sites just aren't taking students right now. And, you know, it's just an unfortunate time we're living in. But I will say I had 17 students in the class this semester, and each one did end up in a site. So that's fantastic. Some did take a little extra work to get into a site. But most of the time, if pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic, whenever that's going to happen, you get into exercise science internship, we have a site for you. And it's just as easy as that. So if you want internship experience, I really think you just can't go wrong with that. You get 90 hours of experience at a site and you get unit credit for it. So you get credit towards your degree program. It shows up on your transcript. So when you're submitting your transcript to places for your next step in your career, they're like, oh yeah, they really did do an internship because it's in your transcript. You know, it's kind of proof that you actually did something, right? And you can actually repeat it up to 2 times. So you can get, again, elective credit towards your degree program by taking it twice if you want to. And students do it for a couple different reasons. Let me put up a couple more bullets here before I describe what they might do that with. But basically, we have exercise science internships sites in 3 different domains. One, clinical, so mostly cardiac rehab, but there are clinical sites, a lot of hospital sites that we have. Physical therapy, we've really grown our sites for physical therapy in the last 4 years. Strength and conditioning. Whoops, my bad. Strength and S&C, strength and conditioning. We have some sites for that as well. And then we only have 1 site in this domain, which is why I didn't say we have 4, because we're trying to grow this area in research. We have 2 years now, we've been working with the Lundquist Research Institute, which is partnered with UCLA. And we have a student there this semester, and it's really geared towards, again, giving you some exposure to what PhD life is, which is really cool. And they do a lot of lung physiology, but with exercise type interventions. So it's pretty cool stuff. So how do students do this? Oftentimes, if you do really want to get a lot of internship experience and you do it for 2 semesters, it's really good to do it in a row if you want to do it that way. But students either go to the same site for a second time, and then they get additional, more advanced techniques that they're exposed to at that internship site because you've already spent a whole semester there. The site supervisor knows you, they know your work ethic, they know what your abilities are. And so they grow upon that in a second semester. That's really, really good because we've had super good success with students getting offered regular positions at their internship after they're done with it. And they're not permanent or anything like that. So don't get me wrong. It's not like they're boom, in the permanent position, but usually it's a longer term position for a year. I think we've had some students go a little bit longer than a year, but it gives them that job while they're looking for a more permanent position for their career. And there's a lot to say for that, because you're still doing something while you're waiting and looking for that more long-term career. So that's a really great opportunity. The other thing that you can do is, let's say you're all about PT, physical therapy, and I know a lot of students are, and you get at a PT site, you get a lot of experience there, and you're like, you know what, it just wasn't what I thought it was. Then you can do another internship, maybe at strength and conditioning or a clinical site, to see if that's your cup of tea. The more you get exposed to the different career choices that you have, the more likely you are to be going down the path that's going to make you most happy with your career choice. And I have definitely a story to say about that, because when I was finishing up high school, I was all about business, entrepreneur. I wanted to make a lot of money. All those little tests that you take, I don't know if they still do it in high school, but you take this test, fill out all these questions, and it says, you should do this, right? Do they still do that? I mean, okay, some shaking heads, yes. And it always said the same thing, business manager, this, that. So I was like, well, all right. So I went to the Ohio State University. I did my bachelor's in business administration, focused on information systems there because I like technology and stuff. And I didn't get to actually get experience until the summer before my senior year. I was at Nationwide Insurance, a big corporation there, in their information systems department. Paid really well, don't get me wrong, especially for poor student. And yeah, I hated it. So I was bored to death. I was like, all this time's wasted. We never get anything done. I hated it. So then I started thinking about, well, what else am I going to do now? And that's when I took a class and gave a presentation. It was a contemporary sciences class on in animal sciences, where they're talking about, how we use animals as humans. And I decided to do one on diet because, I always liked exercise. I always liked nutrition. And after that presentation, the teacher asked me, have you ever thought about becoming a teacher, because you present very well? And I said, no, I haven't, but I did after that, and found out they had a whole exercise science major. I didn't even know about that. And that's when I changed careers. Basically, I made that decision, but I could have made that decision even earlier and prepared even better had I got out there and just got some experiences before the summer of my senior year. So there really is a lot to say for getting out there, because on paper, or even from what you hear from other people, the direction you want to go might sound really good on paper, but it could be quite different in real life. And there's positives and negatives to every career choice you make. Like, I don't know, but I think physical therapy can be really rewarding. And I'm only bringing this up because I know a lot of you want to go that route. But if you've never been to a physical therapist, don't get hurt just to go to a physical therapist, but you should figure out what they do. From my experiences in physical therapy, and I've been to them several times, it gets monotonous after a while. I go in, we do the same exercises. I'm like, I can do this at home. And there is a bit of monotony sometimes with occupational therapy and physical therapy. I remember my wife, she broke her finger. I went with her for occupational therapy, and I like observing, right? I'm just looking around. I'm like, well, they're doing the same exercises for practically everyone in here. Now, I know that's not the case, and it's more complicated than that. And there's really fun, cool aspects to occupational therapy and physical therapy. But there are some times where it's going to get monotonous, and you have to be able to take the positives with the negatives, no matter what your choice. By all means, my career choice, there's a lot of crap my grad students in here get to hear a lot about it that I have to deal with as a faculty member. But by far, the joys I experience being a professor far outweigh those nuances that I have to deal with. And that's mostly dealing with you guys. You students are why I like this field so much. So do just keep that in mind. And you will never know that just until you get those experiences. Similar to research, network and search. You just got to get yourself out there. And if there's a company, you want to see if they have an internship available. Sometimes it's really hard to find contact information for these people. I totally get it. But see if you can find someone to contact and just shoot them an email. But remember, make sure your communication is intentional, well thought out, courteous, all the stuff that you should be thinking about with communication, because that first impression really does make a big deal. You want them to look at it. You want them to respond. So be really conscientious of that. How else can you network and search? Your college advisors. I'm pretty sure your CHHS advisors probably know a lot of different sites that I don't even know about. So talk to them about it. Different faculty, each one of us, myself, Dr. Escobar, Dr. Schick, Dr. Valenzuela, so on and so forth, they're all going to know different opportunities for you. Just ask. Fellow students is a great one. I guarantee. So something I had to do an internship this semester that I didn't have to do in the past was I had to ask some students, you guys need to help me and find sites because we are short this semester. We found sites for them simply by going out and searching. And, I even talked to some past students to get some ideas about, hey, do you guys have any experience in internship sites? And I got some ideas of ones to contact, and they had actually worked out. So I actually did what the same kind of thing I'm recommending you guys do. So reach out to your fellow students, ask them, hey, did you get any good experiences? Do they have any open positions? Student alumni as well, because they actually might be in a career already. They might feel like, trustworthy of taking a student that's going through the same program that they went through. And I know you need to know who those student alumni are. So I realize it's not always possible to do that. We've talked for quite a long time about developing some sort of alumni network. It would be super awesome. Much easier said than done. It's not there, but if you do have an idea about how to do that, let me know and we can try to set something up. I know career fairs are often not oriented towards our field in exercise science or kinesiology, but it might not hurt to see if there are some potential participants in career fairs on campus that you might be able to talk to. I know there's really big business ones. I don't know if there's STEM related ones or not. And even then it might be hard to find something that really applies to us here in kinesiology, but it's worth taking a look. Just look at a list of the corporations or businesses that are involved there. And even if you see one, just go. You might be surprised at who you bump into, or a conversation gets started that was totally unintentional that leads to something. It's happened to me so many times in life. I just can't recommend enough to just get out there. If you do attend career fairs, be ready to give a quick 1 minute introduction about yourself and what your goals are and what you're looking for in an internship or a career. It really is helpful to have that prepared, not memorized or anything like that, but know what you want to talk about. Last thing I think here is set up a plan for what you're going to do with internships. And I mean, literally write out some things that you're going to do. I'm going to talk with 2 faculty members in the next month. Okay, that's something. Write that down. Following that, I'm going to speak with my college advisors. Write that out. So I'm kind of saying, make a timeline for this. Make yourself see the big picture of everything that you're going to be doing to find an internship. And I think this really applies to the research stuff we were talking about as well. It really promotes consistent progress. Thinking about it, that thought will flee away very, very quickly after you think about it. Put it down on paper and make it a cohesive plan, and you're more likely to actually follow it. So really organize those tasks. There's a lot of stuff out there on the internet about internships too. I did some searches, and there's a lot of places even offering virtual internships and stuff like that. So we do want to take the positive with some of the pandemic stuff we're going through, and a lot of the virtual stuff might be beneficial for you as well. Ron Swanson, I like him. He makes me laugh. I'd wish you the best of luck, but I believe luck is a concept created by the weak to explain their failures. So I do feel like I did say luck earlier, right? There is a little bit of luck with timing, but you will never take advantage of that luck if you're not actually doing the hard work behind it to get out there, network, talk to people, and find out where those opportunities are. So that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that to add? I know it wasn't groundbreaking or anything. I wish I had some cool groundbreaking thing to give you, but honestly, I think this is what you need to do. And that's why I presented it that way. Getting dark out.
Hello, Dr. Cotter.
Mariana, how are you?
Very good. Very excited to hear about these opportunities. I don't know how, but with my comp exam, I just realized that I want to learn a lot more, and I want to do research somehow. And that I really love learning, and I feel like I'm just starting, and I feel like I'm gonna finish my master's, but I want to continue in that path. And the only way I can do that is in a PhD, I believe, like to put all that many hours into one thing or into a field that you like to be really proficient and like into that level of expertise. So I'm just, I don't know, I keep dreaming about PhD and doing research, and I don't know how to do it. And with this meeting, now I know that my option is to get to build first and probably continue that path, right?
So let me stop you there. Build is only for undergraduates.
Oh gosh.
I know, right? I broke your heart. I'm sorry. They do have, they used to really only have programs for students that could invest 2 years of time, but now they have 1 year available for that. They have different names for them. I'm afraid I forget all their different titles for these different options in Build, but it is only for undergraduates, I'm afraid. Now, let me address some of what you're saying here first, because I know I kind of talked really about undergraduates, a lot of undergraduate opportunity. Some of the strategies I gave do apply to graduates and undergraduates. But for you, you're finishing up your master's degree, you're graduating this semester, right? So I'm gonna let everyone know, which is exciting. I did the same thing. So when I was doing my master's, I did try to do a master's thesis. And what happened was I created too lofty of a project. I was so excited. I wanted to create good information that really affected the sport I was interested in. At that time was gymnastics. I was a gymnastics coach. And sadly, I just was unable to recruit enough people to have a really good thesis study. I did collect data and all that, but just not enough to really statistically report anything that would be publishable in a journal. So I didn't have anything to show for that. It didn't matter. I still got into a PhD program. So, you know, even though it's good to have research going into a PhD program, it's not a requirement, I would say. A lot of programs will probably not look favorably upon that, but it's not. I'm proof that can be a scenario for you. Now,
no, I know.
If you do want to get that research experience when you graduate, and I've had this happen too. We've had students that graduate that stick around. They're in the area, and they still come into the lab and take involvement on research projects. Hopefully, if at the very least you'll get exposure to maybe some different techniques that you can talk about when you're applying to graduate school or PhD programs. More so, hopefully you get on a project where your involvement is to such an extent that you get your name on a conference presentation or a publication, and boom, now that's on your CV that you're submitting to PhD programs. And that's really what your aim should be. But I can at least speak for our lab. Once you're a student and you interact with us in lab, I'm talking about Dr. Escobar, Dr. Schick, and myself, you know, you're part of our family. I've always liked to talk, you'll hear me talk about my research family, like my mentors at UCI. My one mentor lives about 5 minutes away from me. And, you know, I consider him kind of like a father figure. He's helped me with some projects in my house and stuff like that. Similarly, we're family here too. So, you know, anyone that wants to take advantage of any opportunities going on in our lab, whether or not you're enrolled as a student, it doesn't matter. We're more than happy to have you. And you can kind of seek those opportunities out elsewhere, but it's probably much harder to get someone to accept you in, you know, without knowing much about you. And there might be potential concerns about liability and those kind of things, but you know, we know who you are, and we've always developed that trust with our students in the lab, so that's not really a problem for us. But that's something to consider as you move forward towards that route.
Thank you. Yeah, I have 1 more year here, so I would like to have experience on that if I'm pursuing a PhD, because I don't know anything about research. So I like it, but I want to have more experience. So that's why I thought like, oh, this build program then is perfect, because then I have 1 year for my experience, and then I can apply for a PhD. But
yeah, you definitely don't want to make the decision to apply for a PhD if you've never conducted a research project. Ideally your own, but if not your own, at least taking a critical role from start to finish to give you an idea of what it's like. Because, you know, I like the planning stages. I like the data collection stages and working with mostly human subjects with my kind of research. What I like less is actually writing up the paper at the very end, to be perfectly honest. It's such a daunting thing to do. And you're getting a taste of that with the comprehensive exam, the writing portion.
Yeah.
It's daunting. There's so much information that you, as the author of that paper, have to pull together and make sense of and write something interesting that people want to read. It's a very long, cumbersome process. And it's just hard to take those steps to getting it done. And so getting exposure to all those are the three main areas for research. Your prep and planning stages like IRB submission and all of that, your data collection stage, your second one, which again, I think is the most fun in my opinion. And then the third part, which is data analysis and manuscript write-up. And you really should get exposed to those three different areas before you go down the route of spending 4 to 5 years in a PhD program doing something you might not actually like at the end of the day. So.
Well, good to hear. Like, I mean, nothing is in a straight line. I mean, we all change our minds, but I don't know. I feel right now very excited about me having this desire of just learning more and more and more and more. So I think that's a good thing. I mean,
let me comment something really cool here on what Ron said. And I don't want to be held liable for doing anything with your career choice. I'm just giving you opportunities to think about. But one thing I want to stay here is that I've had a lot of students want to do build, so undergraduate here, that had full intention of doing PT, and they seem really gung-ho on PT. And again, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that field at all. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of fun stuff you can do. I have a lot of close friends of mine that are physical therapists that I was friends with them when I was a student or postdoc, right? So I know a lot about it, and it's great. But something to think about, if you really love physical therapy and what's involved with therapy and helping people in that respect, you have to realize that where we get information that drives what we do as therapists, if I'm not a therapist, but if I'm pretending like I am, is research based. It's data driven. What physical therapists are doing, they're doing it because there's research that shows that it's beneficial, or they should be doing that. Occupational therapy is doing that. Medical doctors should be doing that. So if you're really interested in that area, but you're also interested in research, you should think about the potential of being able to create the information that is driving what physical therapists are doing. And that's super cool to think about. Could you imagine that you do a research project that actually influences what all physical therapists out there might be doing with someone? It's really exciting if you think about it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I love sport nutrition, and I would love to just get like a lot of exposure and to learn a lot of techniques and hopefully influence that.
Absolutely. Fun stuff. I hope I didn't go on a tangent there. Any other questions or even things you want to share?
I have a question. I was wondering, what research program do you believe is the best way to put your foot in the door on the second year? So I'm thinking probably Europe, but I'm not sure exactly which one would be the best.
You finished your second year, or you're
I'm in
going
my
to be
second year.
You're just finishing up your second year. Oh, okay. Good thing to look into, I think, would be Europe, if they would accept you at this stage in your career. The reason I say that is because a couple years ago, I think it would be too late for you, but I think they've opened up the amount of students that they'll allow to some extent. And I believe last time I read it, it wasn't really clear cut. And I don't have any Europe students this year. So just because I haven't been able to balance my personal and work life enough to accept that many students. So I don't know for sure, but I think that would be a really great opportunity. I think another thing for you at this point would be getting involved in lab meetings and hearing about what like grad students are specifically doing. Like, for instance, we have a proposal coming up this Friday, right, for a project to be done next year. And if you're hearing about these different projects that are going on, especially with our graduate students, they need help to conduct that research. So that would be a great opportunity for you to find experiences to get involved with that aren't specifically tied to a program, but will still give you the experiences that you're probably looking for that could build you up for, and I just said build you up for something like the build program, so.
Perfect, thank you.
No worries.
So as a student who has never done research, what would be like their first tasks or roles in one of your researches?
I would say the first thing, and I don't know how much you know about research, is to first just learn about research. And I do think one of the best ways of doing that is reading about research. So I think the really fun thing about research, especially when you're just learning about it, is thinking about it from like a detective point of view. Think about just something you don't know the answer to, or something that you're really, really curious about, and go try to find a research article about it. Again, if you type PubMed in to Google, or you go to scholar.google.com, you can do that. So type in a couple keywords. Don't ask like the question in a sentence form, but take a few keywords related to the question you're really interested in. Find an article and just read it. If you've not done that already, that will give you a lot of insight into what research is, right? And basically, it's finding a question that needs answering. Looking at what's been done out there that might lead you to come up with a hypothesis about the question. So, what might the answer be, right? And then you develop some methods to test out what the answer to that question is. And then you talk about the results. And you'll learn a lot about how we do that just by reading research. That's the first thing. So having a good idea about research. And then after that, it's basically, I really do think it's just getting out there, talking to faculty, taking involvement in the lab meetings. If you're ready to get your feet wet, you just need to find an opportunity to get involved with. And I want to say one thing that just popped into my mind about that is you might have in your head something that you really want to do for research, and it might be super specific. I get that a lot from students, really specific projects. And more often than not, I have to shoot it down because one, it's too hard to do, right? Especially in the short period in time that you guys are here. Or we don't have the capacity to do it in our lab. We just might not have the equipment or something like that to do it. So really keep an open mind when you're searching out these opportunities. It might not be the thing that you're super stoked about, and that's okay. It might be a little bit harder to stay motivated in some instances like that, but remember, your main goal, especially initially here, is just to get exposed to the research process. And you actually might find out you really like something that you didn't know you liked before, right? Just by being exposed to this research that you weren't super stoked about, but as you got going and you're like, wow, this is really interesting or really important for a certain field. And at the very least, you'll get exposed to the research process by doing that. So do your research and find out who you might want to work with, but also kind of be a little bit broad with your thinking on what kind of research project you might take involvement with, because you can really gain a lot from that. I'll give you a really great example too. I remember I was doing my postdoc and my mentor wanted me to get involved in some cell culture work, which is basically you take cells and you put them in a petri dish and you grow them and then you do various things to them. We were radiating them and stretching them on this special membrane petri dish and all that kind of stuff. I really wasn't too excited to do it, to be perfectly honest, but I didn't have much of a say in it at that time. And I really sucked at it, to be honest. I was bad at it. I would have bacterial contamination. I had fungus contamination. I had yeast contamination. I was doing all this stuff and was getting nowhere. And then all of a sudden I got better. And I never really published anything from the data that I have on that particular project, but I learned a lot. And now I can say I know how to cell culture. I know how to culture cells, in vitro, and it's cool stuff. So, had I just dismissed that totally, I wouldn't have those skills today. And now I actually am thinking about a project to use those skills. So, full turnaround there. I don't know if I answered your question, Jacqueline, but basically for most people, getting out there and finding that opportunity that you can get involved with will probably be the most important step that you can take. And it might take a long time to do that. Hey, buddy. You want to say hi? There it is. All right. Hey, look, they're waving at you. Can you wave? Here you go. All right. Well, is there any other questions? It's going to be about our dinner time soon. So I can answer probably a few more if you guys have them.
I have two questions, actually, Dr. Cotter.
Sure. Hi, Elise.
Hey, so one question, in regard to the internships, for the strength and conditioning internships, do you have to be certified as a strength and conditioning coach or specialist in order to participate in those internships?
Excellent question. Sometimes. For instance, we work with strength and conditioning at Long Beach State. And they didn't do one with me this semester. They just didn't have a slot open for it. But those, I believe, have all been with individuals that have their CSCS. But we do have some other sites. We've actually lost a few of them in the last couple of years, but we're still looking to get some more. I would say a majority of the sites do not require that. So that is encouraging. But let's see, Noah, you have your CSCS. Dom's not here tonight. I don't think I saw her, but she has her CSCS. So definitely, I have my CSCS. It's definitely something that you will need if you want to get out into strength and conditioning. It's like, it doesn't make you a good strength and conditioning coach, but it's like the base minimum level requirement to get involved in that field.
Well, yeah, it's something I definitely want to get. I'm hoping to make it a summer goal, but we shall see how this summer goes. My second question is regarding research and publication. So publication is something that I'm very much interested in. However, in my experience just in the graduate program with reading different articles and coming across something new, which is rebuttals to certain research, one of the things that we have to do is critique these articles. And sometimes the question in class or in a paper is, what do you think? Was this a good article? How was the research study? What did you think about the methods? Things along that nature. And when the conversation comes about that, no, this was not very strong, or this was, maybe a little crappy, or it's interesting that this was even something that was discussed, it makes me think in regards to how easy or how difficult is it to get published? Because on one hand, I'm thinking, there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of requirements, and I hear that you might not get accepted to journals that you submit your work to. But then on another hand, when I think about these critiques that we do and we say, well, if this one wasn't so good, it reverts me back to the thought of, well, how did they get published? So, it's kind of like a two-part question. So, what is that experience to get published, and how easy and or hard is it with so much, information out there?
Depending on how the conversation would go. And I think this would go much longer if we had like Schick and Escobar with us. But the topic you bring up is one that could probably be discussed for hours by itself, is the publication process. It's complicated, absolutely. To even get to the point where you're ready to work on publishing something takes so long. So that's part of the problem there, especially when we're talking about students that want to get published. You guys are here for 2 years, right? Maybe a little bit longer if you're, doing a little bit more part-time, but, you get ready your first year for the project, and then you conduct the project the next year, boom, you're graduating. And you really haven't maybe even selected a journal to publish to, let alone prepare a manuscript for it. So what often happens with master's students is they don't get published. So that's the first thing. And that's just because it is so hard and cumbersome to do, especially when you're moving on to the next steps in your career, maybe more graduate school, and maybe you actually get a job and you're so into your job. I get it. It's really hard to continue working on something that's so cumbersome when now you have a new responsibility that you have. Most of our students that do get published, I would say, get published finally and get accepted for publication 1 to 2 years after graduation. That's how long it takes. I will give you a good example of a student. Let's see, what year was that? 2016, maybe he graduated, spring, maybe 17, but I think it's 16. Still trying to get it published. It's been rejected 2 or 3 times. I was not his main mentor for that. So, and his main mentor kind of had a design flaw in the study. So it's been very hard for us to try to justify that enough to get published. But I think we've done a good job. So what happens is every time you get rejected, not always, but you will get comments from reviewers. And then you try to address those by making your manuscript better so that when another reviewer reads it, they no longer have that problem anymore. You've addressed it. And then you submit it again. So hopefully your manuscript is stronger to the point of getting published. Well, let's say it gets rejected again, you get more comments, you strengthen it. And that's why the process can be so cumbersome, and why eventually you most likely will find a home for it if in general the study was conducted soundly. If you have a crappy study, there's nothing you can do to make it better. And that's kind of something what we're dealing with in this particular example I'm giving. There was a design flaw in how it was conducted. And everyone's saying that, a reviewer. And I actually brought that up when it was in its prep stages, but his mentor, that's what he wanted to do. So what are we going to do about it, you know? But here's what happens is you have like a listing of journals, right? If we were able to look at all the journals that are applicable to your particular topic, there's a ton of them out there. They're really good ones. And there are some iffy ones. And there are the ones that email you asking you to publish in their journal just randomly. Believe it or not, I get emails probably on a weekly basis saying, hey, Dr. Cotter, we really are interested in your research. We'd love for you to publish in our journal. Spam, junk emails, immediately what I do with that, because I'm like, you shouldn't be reaching out to me to publish in your journal. I should be reaching out to you to publish in your journal. So there are a lot of fly-by-night journals nowadays that if you pay enough money, they will publish it. But in the academic community, we know which journals have a good reputation, and therefore we know which ones might be held with more of a cautious view, right? If you've never heard of a journal and it looks like a really interesting article, you might read it with a little bit more of a critical eye than a very highly regarded journal. And that's where sometimes, even though in highly regarded journals, you'll see someone write in a comment to the editor about a particular journal. And that's kind of what you're talking about, right? And they say, well, this study was published, and in our experience, we find it hard to believe that this is possible because X, Y, and Z that we've published, right? And then you'll get a rebuttal by the original authors going back and forth. It's really interesting to read that. It's kind of like our debates that we do in 560, right? This back and forth. It's kind of why we do it. It's very exciting to see that kind of stuff. And that happens even in highly regarded journals, because I do a workshop on research misconduct for some of our undergrad students every semester. And the truth of the matter is there is misconduct out there. There's data fabrication, there's data falsification out there. There are inadvertent mistakes when you're analyzing data or inputting data that can change the results. And, you know, sadly, there's probably a lot more out there than we're even aware of. But still, with that being said, it's the best that we have. And so the way science gets around that is by having people repeat similar types of research, right? And if you have a particular topic that's been looked at 10 times, you know, very similar research designs, and nine of them come up with one answer, right? And you have the 10th one that's very drastically different than the other 9. That gives us kind of a little bit of a reason to look at that more closely with a critical eye and figure out what's going on there. That's what science is. Science is kind of self-correcting over time. For instance, there was a publication out there several years ago by Dr. Jacob Wilson, very sketchy guy. It's called The Muscle Professor. If you're into that kind of stuff out there, just, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But basically published a research study that just had these phenomenal results. I mean, what some people that were critical of it, they looked at the results he was presenting and compared it to a study done decades and decades ago on individuals that were given testosterone, like steroids, for the purpose of enhancing performance. And his study, which did not incorporate steroids, was even surpassing the effect of steroids. And people in the scientific community were then like, that's not possible. What's going on here? He doesn't have his faculty position anymore because he was found to have been making up data there. And he's still popular. I can't believe he's still popular. People still follow him. People still believe him. I'm like, how do you believe someone after that? But long story short, I think I touched on some of the stuff you wanted to get. It's a very interesting topic. You do have to be critical with that research. But at the end of the day, you can get published. Even a simple, in my opinion, every well-run project, no matter how simple it is, deserves a place in the literature because it can be helpful. And I was talking to Alejandro about this the other day. Sadly, you have some projects that are very well conducted and they were meant to find some really cool result, right? We all want to find something cool. And what happened? Nothing cool. So now you have this study that you spent all this time doing, and there's really nothing much interesting about it. Unfortunately, it's much harder to get that published than if the results were really cool and interesting. And that shouldn't be the case, but it is reality. That is the case. And so, yeah, there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff we could talk about with publications. But I think for master's students, that if you really work on it, you can get it published, but you have to be really diligent during that second year when you're doing your thesis study, and really have an intent to try to get it out there and under review at least by the summer after graduation. That's how quickly we tell you to celebrate after you graduate for like a week, and then we're like, okay, come on back, time to finish up.
Cool, thank you. What you said was all very insightful.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I might have went off on a tangent too, but
Oh no, all good info, all good info.
I think I could do one more, maybe if we have one more, but this has been really great. You guys have had excellent questions. A lot of fun talking about this.
It looks like there may have been one question in the chat I just saw.
Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks, Elise, for looking. I see that here. Is there any way you can just join and listen? Absolutely. Everyone's welcome to join in. PEX Lab meeting. You can shoot me an email if you want. There's a link I usually send you in a Google Sheets survey that you can select actually everything you want to hear about. So I'm interested in research opportunities. We'll send you an email when we have those happen. I'm interested in lab meetings. You can check that one. I want to do this, this or that. You have the option to select what you'd like communication about. And so, yeah, absolutely. Just, yeah. Oh, Noah, wow, it's on top.
Yeah, I can send the link to everyone if you guys are interested. I can put the link in the chat so that you guys have that link ready to go. I'll do that right now.
And for tomorrow, just so you know, with a proposal, after the presentation by the student, it's open question time, and you guys can all ask questions about that, and please do. The whole purpose of a thesis proposal is to get feedback on making the project, one, feasible. It needs to be a feasible project, making sure it's feasible, but two, improving upon it so that this student is going to have the best project possible moving forward. And you guys might have some awesome ideas about that. He's going to be talking about the Wim Hof Method. You guys familiar with Wim Hof, the ice man? He's a weird dude, not gonna lie, but he makes some claims about his stuff, and the student wants to test some of those claims. And I think those are really cool studies to do. So yeah, come and listen to what he has to say. It'd be kind of interesting. Yep, the breathing. Yep. Yeah, there's like 3 pillars to the Wim Hof method. Well, there's breathing, the ice baths / cold showers. Drawing a blank on the third one. But this student's just going to be doing the breathing method. If you're interested, you can type in like Wim Hof breathing in YouTube, and you'll find he's actually going to be using one of Wim Hof's YouTube videos for participants to be doing every single day during the duration of his study. So yeah, you can kind of see what it's like. It's kind of like hyperventilatory breathing, I guess, to put it simply. But yeah, take a look. It's kind of interesting. All right, and I think, Noah, can you remind me about the schedule? Is next week, is that with the 3 of us, or is that 2 weeks from now?
No, that I believe that is mid-March, so about 2 weeks. Let me double check.
Okay. Yeah, we aren't sure what the topic's going to be yet, but we'll try to come up. We usually just go on tangents that are kind of fun.
I believe that is March 18th. Right?
Oh, okay. We have a lot of time then.
I believe. Let me double check that for you in the future, and then for the members here right now.
Yeah, no worries.
But thank you so much, Dr. Cotter, for showing up and for giving us all this insight. I'm sure that not only undergrads, but graduate students got a lot out of it, which we always do. So again, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
I hope so. And just want to throw it out there. We say this a lot, but we want to just hit it home. Like I said a little bit earlier, the reason that most of us are faculty, I only say this for Sheikh Escobar and myself, is we love dealing with you guys, the students. Even like right now, we're a little bit disappointed and upset that we just can't really do much research wise right now because we don't have a lab we're allowed to go into and use. So, but we will try to help out as much as possible. So for those undergrad students that are here and may have been a little hesitant to reach out to their faculty members, there's some justification for that, I guess. I remember approaching some professors that were fairly unapproachable, but I want you to feel very comfortable reaching out to the 3 of us at the very least with your needs. We'll try to help out as best as we can. So yeah, And remember, if you ever get out there and do what I'm recommending, get out and talking to people and meeting with faculty and all that, remember that you're also kind of gauging what they're like. You want to be involved with a faculty member that respects your time, that is willing to communicate with you, that's willing to help you, because sadly, not all professors are like that. So remember, you're also kind of the one interviewing here when you're out there communicating with individuals. So don't sell yourself short. If you're really motivated to do good stuff, then you also want a mentor that's going to help you with your goals too. So just a little boost to you guys. I feel like sometimes students are so, I just want any little thing I can get. And don't necessarily be like that. I feel like you might be devaluing yourself a little bit. All you guys have accomplished a lot just to get to this particular point that you're in right now. So take a second to always look back to how you got here and boost yourself up. Remember, there's a lot of value that you have to provide here too. So you're part of that communicating process. It's a two-way street. So that's my last advice.
The debate between the triangle of power is March 18th, same time, same Zoom link, everything like that. Just for everybody else's sake, next week, March 4th is our general meeting. So please also come to that. You'll get more updates. Everything about March will be in that meeting as well. And then just to confirm again, Dr. Cotter, Dr. Schick, and Dr. Escobar will have a more open forum, debate, Q&A, audience interaction on March 18th. That one's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. And come next week, and I'm sure they're going to talk about becoming an officer for next year. Excellent opportunity to get out there and network, I'm telling you. So take advantage of that if you can. Have a good evening, guys.
Yep. Thank you so much, Sal. We really
Fun
appreciate
stuff.
it.
Yeah. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cotter. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your dinner.
All right. I didn't expect so many other people to hop off, but thank you everybody for showing up. I hope you guys got some out of that. Again, next week is our general meeting, so stop by, get some more information. And if you're curious about, again, becoming a member, please, we definitely need it. And it's a great opportunity. And another reason to get into, research internship and to get close to Dr. Cotter, Dr. Schick, Dr. Escobar, Dr. Valenzuela, other doctors in this department. It's a really good opportunity. Thank you so much, guys. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Noah.
That's
Have a good
nice.
one.
I was
Miranda,
wondering what positions that you guys still have available for.
all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in a weird situation this semester where all of our exec members, Courtney, you are as well, I believe, are graduating either from undergrad or graduate.
Yep.
So we're taking on people to shadow and learn what each position is like. You won't be expected to, do anything serious unless you feel up to task and feel like you can handle it, and you won't be on your own doing it. Let me stop the